They want us to think that we're an insignificant speck of dust, but let me tell you, we are so much more than dust in the wind.
At least 4 billion useless eaters will be eliminated by the year 2050.
I'm still waiting for somebody to show me gas pressure without a container.
I personally don't believe anything they say, right down to the God they claim they worship.
None of the math adds up.
You could stack up all their math books, all their science books, and even put all their degrees stacked up on top of that, and you still wouldn't be high enough to see the curvature.
This is exactly why grounding is so important.
We see too far.
We're just regular people who know we're being lied to. We're tired of it.
The bottom line is, there's only one choice left, and that's to dismantle this whole thing from the top down. So tonight we are with John Solo from Unbridled Minds. What is going on, man? How you been?
I'm doing good. Just living through the crazy times. Doing good.
We finally got you here.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like every time I podcast something, it's almost like to the T, something happens. So yeah, I had to cancel, I guess.
So Bill and I were talking right before, and we had a theory that the reason that you couldn't be here is because you intentionally put it off till today because it's the 17th.
Oh, you know what? I had no intention, but this stuff happens to me all the time. Numbers.
Yeah.
Like, I kid you not, like, we were sick and then we had to move, so I had to cancel on you guys that one night. And then last week I was totally ready to go. And I know it's tough because it's a time slot difference. We're 7 hours or whatever apart. So last week, just in the middle of the night, the internet goes out on like Friday. And usually it pops back up, but it didn't. Like the wire upstairs got fried. Jeez. And they actually had to send someone in. So like then I had to, I was like, man, I can't cancel tonight no matter what happens. These guys are going to like be so pissed off at me. But I didn't even think about the date of the 17th. I knew it was the 17th.
It was meant to be.
I see 17 a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. When
so.
Things like that happen, there's a reason. And honestly, because of that, we ended up having this guy Teddy Bass on, and he blew our minds. It was I mean, he's a rapper, so like we were thinking about, because we want to have anybody on the podcast because we're both musicians, blah blah blah. So
I'm trying to get a musician right now on the pod, a flat earth musician.
Oh, nice.
You guys I found one, so I'm not going to give you his name yet.
So that's one of the original reasons. I mean, we knew he was a flat earther too, but I didn't know much else about him, and he came on and just like blew our minds. And it was crazy. Nice. It was awesome.
That's good. That's good to hear. I don't watch a lot of other podcasts. I feel like this journey, I've purposely sort of been focused on my own thing.
Yeah.
And to not try to be too influenced or like, because I know there's a lot of truthers. You just see a lot of people spitting out the same stuff, regurgitating. So I've said that many times on my journey. I'm just kind of sticking to my lane. And when I have guests on, then we talk about whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sort of what I've done. But I know there's some episodes I've sort of saved from you guys and other people. I'm like, I gotta go listen to those and just expand. But I think I'm in that stage now where I want to start definitely listening to other stuff too.
Nice.
Picking up some new ideas.
So where are you at again? Tell everybody where you're at.
So I'm Canadian. And I left Canada in end of 21, and I've been in Greece. It's a slow process here to set things up, but so yeah, I'm in Greece right now.
It's awesome.
What made you leave?
Well, we had been here a few times, and if you're a truther anywhere around the world, like people just make fun of Canada right now, and it's really bad. It got really bad in Corona, and it wasn't so much that we really were like planning on leaving and like, oh, if we stay here, we die kind of thing. It was like, I think now's the opportunity to do something if we wanted to do it. Like, long story short, my life kind of fell apart pretty fast in 2020. and we made some decisions, and then we went on vacation to Greece in 21, sort of when I guess Corona was still around, but there wasn't really, the rules were sort of relaxing for the summer, you know. And then we just sort of, I don't know, something was right here, and then we went back to Canada. And it just, for me, like, I don't think it'll be a communist country, but it just felt like a really dark spirit in Canada, like when I came back. And I had a plan to, like, sort of, you know, get back into the workspace. Like, I had lost my job in January of 21, and that was sort of my plan, take some time off and just enjoy it for a bit and then get back into work. But then it got crazy because in Canada and a lot of the jobs in my field, if you didn't get the vax, you couldn't even apply for a job.
Yeah.
It was right on like the description of jobs. So, you know what? Yeah. So we had this plan and these talks, like, you know, to maybe go to Greece, me and my wife. And we said, you know what? It's going to get crazy in Canada. Like, we're going to get locked in our own country here. They locked the vaccinated, like you couldn't get on planes or trains. So we were like, you know what? We've always talked about getting dual citizenship for the kids and you guys in Greece. And not to get into the maritime laws conspiracies, but just something, you know, give access to more countries.
Yeah.
And we said, you know what, now's the time to do it, I thought. So, but then, yeah, again, long story short, it's like 2 years later and we're still waiting on some things. Like, they move slow here. So it's been like 3 years of limbo and 3 years of podcasting. So, and researching. Yeah.
That's good.
That's
good.
So for anybody who hasn't listened to your podcast, I know you talk about, I mean, if you're comfortable talking about it, how
anything.
God has spoken to you directly.
Yeah.
You want to get into a little bit of that?
Yeah. So over the last so we started the pod obviously in 2020 and I had a co-host and then he left. And I just kept it going because, you know, I kind of had this message and I kind of wanted to keep researching and just keep podcasting.
Yeah.
And talking to other people. It's fun. But, you know, like in 2017, sort of Donald Trump obviously got elected in 2016. I guess I could back it up a tiny bit. Just I've had experiences before all of this in 2017. But in 2017, I claim, you know, I've said to people on my podcast, I've heard God speak to me 3 times. And it was sort of around the first time was Donald Trump. And I wasn't a huge conspiracy theorist, but I'd listened to different prophets and stuff like that, the people that call themselves prophets. And there was a lot of interesting things being said about Trump. A lot at the time, not the stuff you saw on mainstream news. And anyway, so I was paying really close attention to it. And, you know, I knew about the Illuminati. I knew about this stuff, you know. And in my head, when Donald Trump, I think it was like January 20th, 2017, when he was getting inaugurated, I remember coming home that night. I was like, yeah, I really want to watch this. And I wasn't like a huge politics person or anything, but I really wanted to watch it. And in my head, I was thinking, man, what are they going to do to this guy? Like the deep state, like the cabal.
Oh, man.
And that's a question I had in my head. And then instantly I was answered. And there were people around me and they didn't hear it, but I heard it. And again, it's just something you can't explain. I've heard the voice before. And it answered me and said, I created this problem. Now watch me fix it. Ooh. And it was kind of confusing for years. You know, this is like 6 years ago now, right? And if I would have heard it now, I think it would make more sense because you can see the mess this world's in right now.
Right.
But like 6 years ago, it didn't really all add up. And I'm like, what do you mean, what problem? Like, yeah, sure, we have problems. And it just seems like everything has gotten worse for like 6 years straight. Like, if you're paying attention. Like, I had dinner the other night and some people from Chicago were behind us and they're still completely indoctrinated. Like, it's sad. Like, it's like they were talking, the comment came up, we don't really watch the news anymore. And immediately they spewed back, well, just because you don't watch the news doesn't mean coronavirus isn't coming back. And I'm like,
oh my God.
I can't even believe they're getting ready to do this again.
Thank God my back was towards them because I was just like, oh, here we go again. Like, I got to do this again. Like, but
what's funny is
anyway,
this morning at breakfast, I had almost an opposite experience. I had these 4 guys that were from out of town because they were talking about everything next to me. And one of them started talking about the issues he's had since he got the, you know,
the Jimmy?
Yeah. So, I mean, these were just normal ass people that you could tell otherwise were totally oblivious, but they were all talking about health issues they've had recently in the last couple years. So some people are starting to notice, and some people are digging their heels in because they can't admit they were wrong. And,
that's the problem. They can't admit it. They have to, like, I don't know. They have to keep the image of the lie going. I don't get it, but
yeah, neither do I.
Yeah. So I mean, so anyway, that makes a lot more sense when I think about that first thing he spoke to me in 2017, and on my podcast, I've already said this before, and it seems to be coming up more and more when I talk to guests. And then later on in the summer, and I didn't write the date down, and I should have, but I used to travel a lot for work too. And I was on the road, and I was at a hotel called the Laughing Loon. And it's, you know, if you tell the story, that's why I think I like it, because you think I'm a loon and you're probably laughing at me if you're not into this stuff. But so anyway, I had a Traeger at the time too, like it was brand, you know, the smokers, and they're more in North America, like the pellet smokers. And you slow roast pork, right?
Yes.
You know, you get pulled pork sandwiches. It's really good. And my first one didn't turn out as well as I wanted. And I was thinking about it, and I was in the Laughing Loon, and I was taking a piss. I was in the urinal, like just by myself. And again, I'm just thinking to myself. I do that a lot. I guess, you know, think about things, talk about things to myself. Yeah. And there was like a sign, you know, how they have ads at the urinal you read in front of you. And there was an ad for like a pulled pork barbecue coming up. And I was like, yeah, I really got to cook mine slower again, like just a lot slower. And then the voice spoke right back to me again and said, yeah, just like the Gentiles.
Oh,
and I was like, what?
Wow.
And I laughed. I'm like, that's really funny. Like we, you know, like slow cooked pork. That's what the elites call us, goyim, pigs. And I was like, that's really funny. But then when I thought about it, I was like, what does that mean? Like, why would you even say that to me?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll bring it up maybe later with Tartaria. I wanted to ask you guys' opinion, but, you know, if you believe it's been 2,000 years since Jesus, that's a long time since maybe you would say the supernatural works of Jesus and the apostles. Like, when was the last time something big happened on earth that kind of changed it? Or when was the last time you saw crazy miracles happen? Yeah. You can research stuff like Azusa Street revivals, and if you get into it, there's been like pockets of reports. I've never seen one. I've had someone pray over me and my arm moved a bit, but sometimes that can just be like chiropractic issues too. Yeah. So you have to be careful. But like, okay, that's what kind of meant to me. Is like, it's been a long time, like since maybe normal average day people have done signs and wonders or have experienced signs and wonders on a full scale. So that's how I interpret it. And now the 2,000 years, they never said anything about that. It's just how I kind of interpret it. Yeah. That something is coming. Something is coming, and it's going to be supernatural.
Wow.
And yeah, and so that's all I've released on my podcast. But it's funny because I didn't ask you to say what you said at the beginning of this podcast about sometimes things just happen when they're supposed to happen.
Yeah. No.
And you guys came on my podcast, and I had a really good time with you guys. And this is the fastest I've had a turnaround with having a guest come back, like, or talking to guys, I guess.
Right.
Since I did it. Like, usually I talk to one person, and sometimes I don't talk to them ever again.
Yeah.
So you guys are a fast turnaround for me. But for months, like all year, actually, I've been busy and I haven't podcasted as much. But I've been all year been thinking, when do I say the third thing? Like, how long do I hold on to it for? Like, when do I say it? Like, when do I openly come out with it? People already think I'm crazy. Like, what am I scared of? Or am I waiting for the right timing? And I've had instances before in my life, just really quickly, not to like blab on every little story, but I've given words to people before, and I've done it when I felt like the timing was right. And it had a huge impact on their life, or like it really like woke them up. They're like, whoa, like, how'd you do that? And so I've been struggling for this whole year. I'm like, who do I say this to? When do I talk about it? The last one. And for months now, like before this, all summer, I've been seeing the numbers 369. Okay.
Okay.
And that's linked to Tesla, conspiracy theorists, the Gnostics. I don't really know a lot about those guys, but they link themselves to a 369 a lot too. And I've been throwing it on my Twitter, like, what do you guys think? Like, I've asked, like, I've seen, I mean, long story short, like, you see numbers sometimes supernaturally, okay? Not God doesn't always speak loudly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I've had lots of dreams, but when things started to happen, like in the daytime, not in my sleeping,
mm-hmm.
like I'd have had lots of supernatural dreams come true. But for me, when things started to happen in the natural, I would see numbers. And then people will make jokes. Oh yeah, if you're looking at your phone all day, you'll see 1111, and you're not. Doesn't mean you're spiritual. Like, yeah, I get it. It's a joke, right? Like, it's true. If you're staring at your phone all day, you'll see 1111 once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But when it starts adding up on your tabs, when you get gas,
yeah, exactly.
When you're behind like license plate after license plate. Like,
yeah,
just, you know, crazy thing. Okay,
yeah.
Like, there's more to it than just staring at your phone. And sometimes
knocking at you. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I experienced that a lot. And sometimes, like, even with 42, this was one instance where I had a really quick turnaround where I got the answer. I was seeing it like crazy. And I said, God, what are you trying to say? And then this guy on his Instagram posted this thing really quick. And for some reason, the guy just goes, oh, and 42 is the number of your destiny. I'm like, what?
What?
And I'm like, how did that happen so fast? Right? Like I don't ask for this. Okay. It just happens. And I can't make it up. I have a personality disorder. I'm an INTJ. So I either tell you the truth or I make everything up. But we're called architects. We're like 2% of the world are like our INTJs, architects. And so anyway, I've been seeing 369 a lot, and I've been asking, like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, and I'm like, nah, it doesn't have anything to do with Tesla. Like, I get it has something to do with Tesla, but that's not what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's just in the last week, or I don't know, it was sometime in between where we canceled every time. I got this little nudge, and I got to do another quick backstory. But at the beginning of COVID, you know, for 3 years, I've been posting Q stuff, crazy conspiracy stuff, supernatural stuff, all over my Facebook. And when COVID came by, you know, I started posting COVID stuff, and that kind of triggered people. But then my wife posted something about COVID, and this friend that I knew, a good friend, went and attacked her on Facebook. Wow. And I'm like, over COVID, because he's you know, gets a boner over masks and mandates and stuff like this, God. Right? Yep. Okay. But at the same time, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I've been posting shit for years, and then you go after my wife.
Yeah.
I'm like, it kind of just really rubbed me the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So didn't really stay in contact with him. I've lost lots of accounts, and I don't really have him on my social media anymore. Then this is 3 years ago. Okay. I haven't been on his Facebook. I haven't looked at anything, but I get a nudge to go look at it the other night or wherever a week ago and look at it. And he has this long-winded post about how he ran a marathon and how great he is. And, you know, like, thank you for my cheerleaders. I'm surprised he finished it because he probably has 3 or 4 jabs. And, but anyway, I'm reading the thing. And guess what his numbers are on his bib?
No.
They have 369. I think it was 396.
Still, it's a combination of those numbers.
Yeah. And I just kind of like put the phone down. I'm like, you gotta be effing, like, this is ridiculous. And so I just kind of thought about it for a few days, and it was like, you know, part of his story on it was like finishing his race, even though like he was sick. And, you know, he's a little beaten up, but he finished the race. That was just kind of, it wasn't a horrible match. Make fun of him.
He was weighed down by all the graphene. He's still
yeah. The 5G towers didn't suck him one way or another yet. But, you know, so anyway, but the message, I guess, was like, finish the race. Like, just finish it. And so I've been like, you know what? I think it's time just to say it. And it's nothing super crazy. It's nothing crazier than I've said before.
Does that mean you're going to say it here tonight?
Yeah, and I told myself I wouldn't do it on someone else's podcast.
Yes.
but then
all these numbers
showed up. I'm like, I'm supposed to do it. And then, like I said, the 17th. And I'm like, I think I'm supposed to do it. Like, I'm supposed to say the thing.
To tie into that, I just listened to your podcast that you did with Raven. And cool while you were talking, I was thinking back to when we talked to you, and you mentioned the third thing. And I was like, man, how amazing would that be if he said it on our show?
Yeah, there you go. So that's the backstory of why I'll share it, because I'm like, okay, I think I'm supposed to. And again, I can't make this stuff up. I'm not that creative. It happens. And it just happens. So the third thing was in the summer of 2017. And it's not a long story. It's to burst your bubble. I was literally just daydreaming. I was in my backyard and I was looking up at the clouds. And I don't know why, I was imagining, I'm like, man, what would it look like if an angel just appeared to you? Like, would it just like start off as like a little light and then come over the clouds and just start getting bigger and bigger and bigger?
Right.
Like, what would it be like? And then the voice spoke to me and said, I'm sending you an angel.
Wow. And then I just got chills.
Yeah. And that was it. And then for the last 6 years, life has been nuts, good and bad.
Yeah.
And, I've tried telling this story to so many people. Most people don't believe me. You go into the church, religious, they don't believe you. And,
which is you would think would be odd, but it's really
yeah, you can't talk about it for some reason. In many situations, in many places. So anyway, yeah, life just kind of happened. And then when the lockdown happened, I sort of had the same gut feeling and experience that I had before to start the podcast. Like, I knew I was supposed to start this podcast, and I didn't know if I was going to ever talk about what God said to me. I just knew I was supposed to start the podcast.
Yeah.
And then now here it is, like, basically, 2017 to 2023. That's like 6 years, I guess. So yeah. So I mean, and the reason I guess I've kept podcasting, especially since 2020, is it's been rough for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's why I think when I get mad, I feel bad for those people that are brainwashed, but I also get kind of mad because they don't put any thought into the other side of what we experienced, like getting locked out of our careers.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not.
Or kicked out of families. Just because we didn't want to take a bullshit shot that some of us knew was bad because it did bad things to animals. And we were called crazy. Like,
what's messed up about that is if any one of those people, if you ask them 5 years before COVID, like, do you think someone should get fired? Do you think someone should get fired for not taking a vaccine? Every one of them would have said no. Every single one. But all of a sudden for this, it was like, hell yes, fire them. Don't let them in hospitals. Don't let them see their dying family members. Don't let them do anything.
That in itself is supernatural. That's evil.
Yeah.
That's the opposite side. That's the opposite side of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And we all got to experience it. We all got to see it. And for me, it was kind of like watching this nightmare happen when I'm expecting all these good things to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And
where's that angel, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hello, like, let's go. Like, where's the good stuff? Like, it's frustrating too, right? Because you're struggling with it. Like, I know I'm not crazy. Like, I'm the same guy I've always been my whole life.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the way I chose to do my podcast and the style I've done it. I don't think religious people probably like the way I've talked, but there's a lot of us out there, flat earthers or whatever. Like, they swear sometimes, they get angry.
Yeah.
And does it make you a bad person? No, I think we're just maybe, or just awake and a little bit angry.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do all those things, and I know that I have a closer relationship with God than some of the people who act completely good and then behind closed doors do other crap,
Yeah. I would agree with that too. So I mean, the conspiracy side of the supernatural is sort of dangerous, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, God led me down it since 2020 as well. And I've researched a lot of stuff, and it's like, man, like, because I was having supernatural experiences before the conspiracy stuff. And that's why I was like, you want me to do a conspiracy show? And I was like, I'm not really a conspiracy theorist. But yeah, like here I am, like it's led me to flat Earth. It's led me to all this crazy stuff that you're talking about, and it's like, holy cow. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, but I feel like it's about to get darker. I think I've alluded to that on the last podcast. Maybe that was even when I talked with you guys. And, you know, you just see them ramping up the fake diseases again.
Oh yeah.
I see tons of video people coming out of Canada just can't afford it anymore. You know, everyone's struggling. Like people are like on Facebook and social media, like having real breakdowns.
Yeah.
Talk about all the vaccine injuries. Like, where's the message of hope? You know, like every conspiracy theorist, everyone, well, not everyone, but it seems like if you get called a Q-tard, if you have a little bit of hope, but my hope doesn't come. Yeah, but my hope doesn't necessarily just come from Q. Like it comes from what God told me. I just found Q very interesting because Kim Clement, the guy that I was studying and watching videos before I saw Q, talked about Q. He talked about Trump. And then all this stuff popped up, and you're like, holy crap. Like, what is going on? Like, it doesn't make you crazy that these people said it, and I watched it, and then it happened. It doesn't make me crazy. Like, it's not my fault news doesn't talk about this stuff, you know? It's just...
Have you ever wondered why some of us were allowed to see that and know that before it happened?
You know what? I do have a feeling, and I think it's to take down fake news.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, but I meant like the spiritual side of this, right?
Yeah, to take down fake news.
Oh, okay. So, okay. So the army basically building that army, but not everybody was open to that. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody received that message, if you will. Okay.
Like, I guess, but how many people have podcasts and just started speaking their truth? Not even maybe intentionally saying, I want to take down fake news. How many people have raised their voices? And then how many of us have called out the bullshit for starting from 2020 or even before, like the inauguration? Like I'm seeing some good stuff on Twitter where people are showing the AI, the changing of the people behind the scenes, the snow one day, you know, like what the heck happened on, like, you know, there was something obviously happened on the inauguration and the military with their backs turned to him, like crazy things happened. Okay. So something happened. So
I've shown that video to my dad. Okay, for instance, right? And I was like, because he was in the military. I was like, you know what that means, right? That doesn't mean anything. That's just, you know, that was just Biden driving in a car, and then they were just standing there. Like, what am I looking at here? What does that mean? I'm like, no, you know they are saying this guy's a traitor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like it's right in our face, but it's
right.
Like...
And an illegitimate Oh, well, anybody can fake the videos. And it's like, it's funny because they'll cherry pick that, you know what I mean? Like when it's faked and it doesn't jive with their narrative, right? The narrative, or I should say the narrative that's been fed with them. Then all of a sudden that's fake. Right. But that's what my whole point is, like, why were only very few of us, I say very few of us, like hundreds of thousands, but why were very few of us only able to see all of that, like all the you know what I mean, the videos of the ballots, you know what I mean, being shoved in and all that behind the scenes.
Why did we tune in? Why did we tune into it and other people didn't?
Right. That's what that's where I think that this is.
Well, look at us. Look, people like me have been doing it for 3 years. I think that Raven guy, he's changed podcasts, but he's been doing it for 7 years.
Yeah, I know.
You guys have been posting for a long time. I don't know how much you guys have been doing or for how long.
Yeah, we were.
There's tons of people doing it now.
Yeah,
and somehow, maybe I have no idea how, but I just get this feeling. It's like we're almost like behind enemy lines. Like we're trying to tell the truth in some ways. And they're lying, and when everything gets exposed, there's going to be a group of people that there's going to be evidence like, no, look, they saw it.
Yeah.
Like they saw it. Like we could be used as evidence. Like these people saw things. Maybe they didn't see everything, but they clearly saw things. They experienced things. And then when the fake news, they've been lying for 3 years, something has to come out. When the truth comes out, it's going to be like, I don't know. Like, does that make sense? Like,
right, with the deep fakes,
I don't know
too. You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard, even now that the deep fakes are so prevalent. Back then, when I say back then, I'm talking 2020. You know, we were getting flooded with these videos, right, and stuff like that of all that going on. If we present them now, are people like, oh, that's a deep fake? How do you even combat that? You know what I mean? Like, we knew it wasn't then. I still got tons of videos. But it's like if I even put them out, it's like, oh, that's deep fake, or that was debunked, or there's always something that was put out to combat that. You know what I mean? Ahead of time.
Well, then who's putting out? And sometimes you don't know, like who's putting. Is it a good side, good people, bad people putting out?
What,
some
yeah,
of this, like
right.
What's the source? What's the source?
Right.
And what's the intent? And that's where like Q is kind of interesting too. It's like people call it bad. Okay, I get it. And everyone, like now Roseanne and everyone's talking like, oh, it was Operation Trust. Well, what if it was Operation Trust, but used in a good way? Like, let's find out the people who we can actually trust, because the corrupt government is being devolved. The corrupt government is gone. It's already gone. Like it's gone. We're just watching a pause of AI actors for whatever reason. My guess is things have to get ready for what's coming, and I believe that's my guess. And so, like, well, you can only guess. But
you're right, but what makes sense to me is like when I hear the storyline of, could you imagine if Trump would have just been like, that's it, you're all arrested, we got y'all.
I would have loved it.
With I know
the select few would have loved it, but the rest of the people would have freaked out.
Yeah,
freaked out. There would have been riots. There already was riots just when he was elected. Can you imagine if he did that? Yeah. And then there's like the news, not yet. The news still has its grip on everybody, and they're like,
it does.
Yeah, you know what I mean? He's taking over the country. Can you imagine the narratives they would have been running? You know what I mean? They would have been able.
And I think that's exactly why they did that, because they
chose the back channels, they chose those chans. You know what I mean? And they just did it very slowly, and found these people that were really good at just researching and like figuring out these codes, right? And on that tip too, I think a lot of time was wasted trying to decode things, when reality is, in my opinion, that Q is a script. Okay, it's a script that's in all different kind of crazy orders, and now it's all lining up. Right,
and that makes sense, because like there's only one way to control the future.
Is if you're
pulling the strings, right?
Exactly.
So you can make it look like it's too good to be true, because it is.
Yeah.
Because you've already won, and that freaking patience people have, I don't get it. How do you let some of this stuff play out for 3 years? Like, do you think there's still bad guys that need to be caught?
I don't know, man. I think it's all, at this point, it is psychological. It is, they're testing the waters, all these polls that are going out, and it's not just on a political side, but I think Flat Earth honestly has a big to do with it. Okay, even though Q said no, the Earth is not flat. Okay,
which I can tell you it's not flat. I don't think it's flat. It has mountains, it has valleys, it has all different levels. Flat Earth is something they threw on us to make us look dumb, and we just kind of embrace it because we know we're right. But so the way, if Q is really as smart as all of this would take, he could dodge that question that easily and not lose half his followers or half the people who believed in it in 1 second, because that's what would happen. Because some of the people, are diehards, and it may make some people research it, but other people that are, kind of 1 foot in, they would have immediately lost all those people.
That's true.
They'd just be gone.
Think about it.
And what's more important at the moment?
Right. If you were in that chat at the moment and he asked that, would it have changed your mind? Heck no, because Ted and I have been researching Flat Earth since 2016. Oddly enough, 2016 has started really coming out, right? Like, no coincidence there. That and the Mandela effect, which for him and I led to Flat Earth. Okay, so
whatever you think about Mandela, whatever, it led a lot of people to a lot to So
I don't know if I believe in it yet. I get it, but do you think so?
I see some weird shit. I don't know what it is, but
I don't think it's much as believing it as it's part of the operation.
Just to get people to think.
Right.
And it worked. Wait a minute. It 100%
make a new, physically make, because that's what happens in your brain. Is you make a new connection.
Yep, new neurons connect and shit.
Yeah, and that's what happens. Yeah,
that's exactly what happened to me. So
how do you get people's attention? You know what I mean? It got my friend Ted's attention big time. Like this is a person that was a full-blown atheist, you know, and it stopped him in his tracks to the point where he was white in the face, dude, when he had to come to me with these things and say, dude, I cannot discredit this. I cannot debunk this.
Yeah.
What is
it? People can say whatever they want about me on Twitter. I don't give a shit. But Bill knows I am a critical thinker. I'm always in my head, nonstop. Everything I do, I've analyzed it 20 ways before I do it. Everything. So when I came up against something that I couldn't wrap my brain around with what I've known my whole life, it messed me up. It demanded all of my attention. I could not move past it until...
Now place that, place that as an operation, right? Like, how do you get these people's attention? You know? But
how do you de-brainwash them without shocking
start
the
them
system
early and get them ready for this? Because
and I was brainwashed, dude. I was... You know, I watched An Inconvenient Truth. When I watched that, I was like, fucking climate change, dude. And then, I mean, I was kind of young at the time, so it's understandable. And as I was all against God, had religion so dumb, look at the Bible, these can't be real stories. Well, they can't be real stories if you believe that the world around you is the only world that's ever existed, yes. But that's not the case in my mind. These are, I mean, obviously there's some lessons in there, but the Bible is so many things, so many different things. It's parables, it's real life accounts, it's stories passed down, it's all kinds of things.
It's a very interesting book.
Yeah.
So it's just, to me, to come across something like this that I couldn't answer and all that, it was just, it changed my life. It changed me at my core and made me question everything I've ever known. So it worked. Period. It worked.
Yeah. If that was the whole mission, was to get people to think, and enough people to think to start something moving one way, then I would say it was successful, because people critique it and say like, oh, this is wrong, or this blah blah blah.
Right.
So, you're not wrong. Like, you're not wrong about Operation Trust. You're okay to think negatively about it.
Yeah.
But if it was a bad Operation Trust and bad guys were still in charge, pretty sure my door would have been kicked in.
I was gonna say, thank you for pointing that out, John.
Like, commies might have don't like people that talk about God and supernatural things. And,
isn't it funny how we're allowed to get away with so many things now?
Not only that, but
and I use music that I'm not supposed to, and I'm like, I keep getting away. I got banned on Spotify, but I'm like, I think we're allowed to rebel right now.
Yeah, we're allowed to.
But people, they get so deep in it, and it's understandable. You know what I mean? This is a psychological operation. Okay, this is being played on all of us.
Yeah,
you know, we're all in it on different levels, and we've fallen for things that weren't true, or
totally.
You know what I mean, like all the time. And
that's why I never try to put a date on anything. Nobody knows the date.
Yeah, I've said that. I've said that even with me. Like, I've said that with what God said to me. There's no date.
Yeah,
right.
Like, there was no date when this was going to happen. So it pissed me off when everything went the wrong way.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm like reminding myself, okay, there's no date.
Yeah.
There was no, like, what's more important? Like, I still have to tell myself, like, actually, I'll tell you something. We're talking about why some people were there first, or we understand it first. I had a dream like years ago. I can't remember if it was before Q or during Q. No, I think it was during. Because I was struggling. I was getting mad at people a lot. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, wake up. And then it was like, I had a dream one night, and all these cars were going in the same direction. Okay. And it was like a two-way highway. In Canada, we have like lots of like just two lanes and mountain roads, sort of highways.
Yeah.
You know, for each way of direction. And everyone was in their lane, you know, going all to the same direction, but everyone was driving really slow. And no one was coming the other lane in the other direction. And I was like, you guys are going so slow. And I went in the other lane and I sped right past everyone. And at the end, there was a bunch of fireworks. And I got there really fast. And I was like, let's go. And so like, and this was years ago. I had this dream. So even sometimes, like, I still, like, I get impatient. I'm like, when's the good stuff coming?
Yeah.
Like even if you're like, I feel like everyone's gone through different storms. like to various degrees. It doesn't matter where you live, where you're on earth. Like we've all experienced something, whether you admit it or not.
Exactly. Oh yeah, it's a big part.
We've all gone through it. We've all gone through storms, so.
It's so easy to get sucked in very deep to this, to the point where you kind of lose touch with reality, and then reality hits you 10 times harder, like when a good friend dies all of a sudden or something, you're like, wait a minute, no,
bad things aren't supposed to be happening. And
like that doesn't make any and then you start thinking, well, oh god, did he take the what and stuff like that, like you already start to like plug it into the situation. You already know this going on, right? So it's like, and it's just messing with you, and then you're just like, why did I wake up so early, but then you realize
you were meant to.
Right.
For some reason.
Whatever. Yeah. And hey, how about the fact that you're here doing a podcast right now? And I don't care if it's 5 people listening regularly.
Dude.
Yeah.
They're regularly listening to something they may have never heard before. When I first got on Twitter, I was like, man, I can't post any of this stuff on this zip drive or hard drive because everybody knows this crap. And then I kind of ran out of things to post without accessing some other stuff. And I was like, I'll post a few things. And people are like, what? Holy shit. Like, I forget that there's some people that haven't gone down this road at all yet. They're just not, they don't know any of it.
Thing. Yes, very
humbling. And I was thinking about that today. Like, even like the last 3 years, like I said, I wasn't a conspiracy theorist. Like, I had looked at them, but I was never like, I was like, that's just like, it's always doom and gloom, and like God says good things are coming, like in the Bible and stuff, and like that's the path that's the way I always looked at the world.
Yeah.
And so like, but then it's funny because I keep having these talks with different people, and you guys are one of them, and we've all had this journey from we've all started from somewhere differently, but people are coming to the end road, like the dream, and we're all coming to like this great awakening. And people say, oh, it's like the dark and the light. Like, actually, it's a good point sometimes, like with the Freemasonry, like the dark and the light, and they're still controlling the light. Like it kind of scratch your head sometimes about that too. Like, is the Great Awakening not a good awakening? I don't know. Is it a controlled awakening? Is it for good reasons? Like you question, like you said, like sometimes you go back and forth on this stuff. Like, like what is going on? But I still have to rely on what God spoke to me more than anything, any other conspiracy.
Can I ask you this? Do you think you're a better or more informed person than you were before this?
Oh, way more informed.
Okay, exactly. So if nothing else, it's good in that way. Like,
right,
I know I'm a better person from I was atheist before this, and not that I was a bad person, but I was missing out on so much. Like, I appreciate my family more now. I appreciate my wife more. I appreciate my job more, everything more, because I know I'm where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there, and that's a huge thing. And
being able to hear that call, like, when were you open to something like that? You were everybody was so busy with their lives, you know what I mean, and the routine of their day, and I gotta go to work, and the slavery
just the 9 to 5 over and over,
right. Like, what does it prove if it's a bad psyop, right? It's this evil thing, and they're leading us into destruction. What good is it by enlightening us on everything that's been done to us, like waking us up? What does that do? You know what I mean? How is that a bad thing? I don't understand.
I didn't even pay attention to politics before Trump, honestly.
Not a lot. Like I did, but I
knew what was going on, but I didn't.
I was just right winger, and like I talk about on my podcast, like even in Canada, like I got to the point, like I wasn't like a huge politician, like I wasn't into it, like it wasn't the funnest thing, but I got to the point where I was like, man, the conservatives they suck. Like they're just like, and I was like, oh, PPC. And then now I'm like, oh, like in Canada, it's kind of like they're all have their secret councils behind the scenes too. Exactly. Like it's like, oh, the PPC.
They're putting on a show with whatever.
Exactly. Like, so I was like, whatever. Like, what's the point of even voting anymore? Like, like maybe it's gonna get so silly going forward because people have to wake up at some point. Like Trudeau will just keep getting elected. Nancy Pelosi's never going to age. Like maybe her eyebrows go higher and higher. I don't know. Like how silly is it going to get sometimes? Like,
How many times does Biden have to trip upstairs before people are like, all right, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Because we all know, we're old enough to know that if this thing was going on 20 years ago, that dude would have been gone in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah. He would have been gone a long time ago with all the slip-ups, falling asleep.
And the pauses and everything like
falling
that.
Falling off his non-spoked bike, all of that.
How are you telling me that this is not by design to wake you up and say, hey?
But, man, like... Why aren't more people waking up, man? I mean, I guess.
Do you think that's like a problem like they're having right now? Like maybe that's why it's taking some things like justice, like the exposure of justice.
Yeah, cognitive dissonance was deeper than they thought.
Yeah, like is that why it's so frustrating? Maybe for some of us are like, what the hell is going on? Like, are we wrong? Are we wrong? Like,
no, I think that was a lot of reason why people go black pill on it. You know what I mean? And they're tired.
They lose their hope. They lose their hope. Yeah,
you know, and it's just like, where are you gonna go?
I know exactly. What are you gonna do instead, man? No.
This is happening whether you like it or not. Yep. So you can mentally shut out of it, sure, and just do your own thing, and you know, and then all of a sudden it hits. You're like, oh, well, why didn't they warn us? I've been waiting forever. It's like, you know, stop, breathe, and realize you were chosen for a reason.
You know, it doesn't make it easy sometimes, man.
Oh no, I know it doesn't. And it's a very humbling thing, dude, especially when your entire family, in my case, thinks you're freaking nuts, dude. You know, and it's like, and I've shown him things, and my dad being military, I'm like, look at this, and I'm pushing it, and he's just like, son, you're batshit crazy. He's like, I don't know. He's like, trust me, I'm hurt too. You know, I lost the election too, and it's like, but Dad, you have no idea, like this. And then the only time that I did connect with him when I started talking spiritually, how this whole thing has woken me up spiritually.
Yeah,
that's good.
Well,
that's good.
You know, and because he's, you know, he was worked at the church and all that, and he's very close, you know, very hardcore Christian. And it's like when he saw that in me, he was a little more accepting. He's like, so you still think this is like a giant sting operation? And he'll kind of like, you know, ask me these little things. I was like, yeah, Dad, honestly, it is. And we're in it's a color revolution. This is a communist purge. Okay. And that's only one aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know, but this is the aspect of it that you can see. I said, because this can be traced back into the Carter day. This can be all traced back. Everything that's being done right now has been done before. It's just that not to this level of, I don't know.
Well, not with today's technology either.
Right, exactly.
Makes it totally different.
Do you think AI is helping?
Yeah.
Like it's programmed to help wake people up or lead people to the right thing sometimes. Like,
I think both sides are using it. Do I think it's completely over? No. But the majority of it, like,
well, even if they've managed to get to all the people in the government and all that's true, what about all the private industry? What about all of them? You know, it's a lot. So maybe there are still some bastards left.
Compartmentalization is real. It is real.
Yeah, like I saw some theory, like, okay, like the top was taken, but now they're kind of dealing with middle management, like the puppets before, like Obama and stuff. And obviously, if they're controlling fake news, they still have some power.
Yeah,
correct.
Like that's powerful. Like that is powerful. Like I said, like it's when I see someone wearing a mask, it's because the TV told them to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's power. Like, I was brainwashed for years. Like, and it's funny. Like even with flat Earth, like when COVID in 2020. I still wasn't even a flat earther, man. But I just remember, like, I was getting so mad at the news. I'm like, you guys lie, you lie. And then the 30-second, oh, the guy in space. Boom, back to whatever. And I'm like, why do they do that?
Yeah.
I'm like,
started making the connection.
Why do they gotta have that 30-second space thing? And then like,
and well, can we talk about how your vision has become 2020?
Oh, I could talk about that.
Like,
yeah. Like I even knew, because I had prophetic and supernatural experiences. I was telling people when 2010, before this, I was like 2020, you know, something's coming, eh? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, we're all going to start seeing correctly. And I was telling people this. I'm like, 2020, it's going to be an.
I've never made that connection.
No, just
between seeing things in 2020 and
really?
2020.
Dude, that was one of the.
That was a joke. I think.
Dude, I don't talk to people. I don't know a lot of people. So,
but even so we talked about the flat Earth, and you guys, and just even the supermoon there after that, end of August. And I just making sure I love going outside and looking at that stuff. I love looking at the stars, and I was really looking at the moon. But I was really looking at it.
Before I was a flat earther, I didn't care about any of it.
I did all the time. I just thought it was beautiful all the time. But now, I'm like, okay, that's not a reflection. That's its own light source.
Isn't it incredible? You see.
Yeah, it's even crazier. And it has a cooling effect. And
that's why it's always go through your app or whatever weather app on your phone and look as the moon gets fuller, it gets cooler. Full moon nights are always cooler than the nights around them. Always. Yeah. It's because the light of the moon.
The light has a cooling effect. That can't be a reflection.
I know. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, exactly. That's so. Anyways,
that's honestly why Ted and I are especially Ted. He's like, I truly believe that flat Earth is the keystone. It's the one thing.
Yeah, it ties in a lot of other conspiracies. Other things really start to go, click, 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 click.
Yeah, click. I mean, if you think about that lie, the level of that lie.
That's the big lie. I think that's why they called the election the big lie, to get that in your head. Yeah. And then once you realize sooner or later the big lie is the globe.
Yes.
That's my thought of that psyop. That's a part of the psyop.
It is, but you know what? The psyop is designed to unravel that thinking. You know what I mean? It's designed in my opinion, it's designed to unprogram us and cause us to get frustrated, to get, you know what I mean? And look for things on our own and try to find the answers on our own versus looking for them in the wrong places, like the news and everything else and these explanations they give you.
How do you unbrainwash people? How do you plan that? How do you plan that? You got to be, who are you? Who's doing this? How do you be this smart?
That was it's funny you bring that up, because one of the things I said to my dad one day too that actually made him kind of break down with me. I was breaking down. I said, I just wanted to thank you for your service, because I believe that we have the greatest military in the entire world. And I said, I feel safe because of that, Dad. And I wanted to thank you for you going, because he told me not.
That's something you would have never done previously.
No, ever. Yes. And he told me not to go in. He's like, don't go in, because I was going to go in the Marines just like he did. I wanted to do the same thing. He's like, no, don't do it. Because there was at the time, in the 90s and everything like that, Kuwait and everything.
He also knows how it changed him, and probably didn't want it to change you that too.
And I after figuring it out in 21 after that funeral service that they called an inauguration, it all started clicking, and I'm like, holy crap, they are in control. We are living in a military operation right now, but it's so covert. It's
crazy, man.
It's psychological. But look at the tools they have to use. Look how they got everybody to go online. Stop watching TV and go online, right? This is where we're going to feed you. This is where we're going to put D-class. This is where everything's going to go through slowly, drip, trip, flood, right? It's playing out that exact way, you know? But that was really what I wanted to say.
If you think that no one could plan something this elaborate, watch any movie, and these are crappy Hollywood writers, and look at what they come up with. And you don't think the greatest minds who are hell-bent on waking up their people could come up with a perfect plan to pull this off?
Plus, they have the plans of the bad guys that were going to lay theirs out. They have all that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's
why
sure.
I tell people. It's like what I tell people. What part of we caught them all did you miss? Why would Trump be on there? We caught them all. They cheated. He's telling everybody this.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he talks about the pause, and then even when the inauguration happened with Biden, the military is saying a peaceful transition to military.
Yeah.
They openly said it. It's on TV.
I know.
It just kind of went over everyone's head. It seemed like it.
Yeah,
and then, but like I said, 3 years later, you're like, did I get that wrong? Like,
no, man. And I believe in my heart of hearts, that's, you know, and I'm not saying that Q is the answer. No, we are the plan, man. We are it. We are the facilitators of this. You know, without us, if they would have never went on the chans and did all that stuff, this would have never been able to happen, in my opinion. Honestly, you had to set the precedence, right? You had to set the stage, so to speak, and you know, and get it out there and get people willing to take this information and run with it.
Yeah, I kind of had that feeling in 2020 after the election was stolen. I was like, okay, this was something to pull people out, Q, to get people talking. I had that feeling, and I was kind of like, crap. I got suckered in, and I got brainwashed the other way.
You know what's funny though is, do you remember all the stuff that was coming out then though?
Yeah, it was just wild, man.
You had Lynn Wood out there.
Yeah, I remember making jokes.
Yeah, calling people on the Supreme Court pedophiles, dude, and nothing's happening to this guy, right? Like you're like, okay, come on. Yes, he's a famous, you know, defamatory lawyer or whatever, you know, defamation lawyer, but it's like, how do these people, like, look at what's his name there from Fox now talking about Obama? How does he get away with that? Obama hasn't come out. Yeah, Tucker. Yeah. Thank you. He hasn't come out and said anything. Where's Obama?
Yeah,
right?
He's not saying anything. Yeah.
No one's saying anything. We've been talking about Big Mike for years now. He's never going to come out and say, you guys are, you know, jerks. She's a woman. This is baby pictures. Where is it? Because they're gone, dude.
Yeah, you guys think they're dead? Like, you think they're all dead?
Not all of them, all of them, but to the degree of treason. Oh yeah,
like Biden and McStain. Obviously.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh yeah, dude. The no name for sure.
Because a lot of people get like mocked for saying that online, like with a lot of truthers. Like they get made fun of, like, oh. Like I've gotten to the point where, like, okay, like I'm just waiting on God. Yeah. Like, okay, if they're dead, they're dead. I don't know. I don't have proof.
But
it's a good theory, but I don't have proof. Like it's obvious it's not the Biden, but I don't have proof everyone's dead.
Right. I use deductive reasoning. Okay.
Yeah.
Why were all of these videos put out about deepfakes and AI and how they can fake this? Right. They're
to wake you up to that idea.
Right. Why was that all out there? Yeah. Because that's exactly what's being done. You know. And like, the level of corruption, filth, you know what I mean? These people are disgusting, dude. You know what I mean? Like the highest of the onslaught, you know what I mean? I don't know about Frazzle Drip. Okay. But knowing what we know, I can't put it past them.
No, not when you know, like, sacrificial temples, like, still exist. Exactly. I don't know how did they kill people? Like, I don't know.
Right. You know, like, what's the significance with these symbols and all that stuff? Why would all of that be put out to where we can recognize it if it's just going to lead us right to our death? It doesn't make you know what I mean? In our slavery, it's like,
well, a lot of people say, hey, it's just end times. It is what it is. Like, get ready for the rapture. Like, a lot of people say the rapture's coming, and I'm kind of like, I'm not buying it. It's a good theory. It's a good idea. I just, for whatever reason, something inside of me, well, obviously what I've been told, it's not the rapture. Like, we're going to do cool things. Cool things are about to happen. And that's my take on it. So I'm like, well, I can't be doing cool things if we're gone.
Yeah,
there are things about this movement, you know what I mean, that, like, I'm like, okay, so Trump and his son time traveling, all that. Well, look, there's the
books. Yeah.
The book from 1800. Anybody can make a book, right?
Put it out and say it's from 1800.
Yeah. I've been to the Lockwood. What do you think about Lockwood, like their website and the hidden messages? and their address, 1717 Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we're dealing with a psychological operation by professionals. This is what they've been trained to do. Our military is incredible, dude. This is not the first time we've done this. We've taken over countries like this.
As someone who still to this day doesn't really consider myself a Q person, I know something's going on, but I have a very logical mind, and I can say that there is no way that this many coincidences lined up. It's impossible. Right. It's beyond astronomical. It's just, it can never happen. So there's 100% something going on. So all the stuff that people are like you said, the address 1717, like,
it's too silly. It's too good sometimes.
Yeah. It has to be. It has to be planned. There's no way there's that many coincidences. It's impossible. Yeah.
I got to say, I'm glad that we got to talk to you about this, because I don't really get to talk to very many people in depth about it, especially that would understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
because I was deep into it. Now, I'm not saying that I was there and like, oh, John F. Kennedy Jr. is alive, and
no, I've never bought that. I've never bought that. I don't get it.
It could be.
It'd be cool. Oh, it'd be cool, but I don't think so.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. But it's like, I just see, but the only thing I cannot deny is there is military involved to an extent that we cannot wrap our heads around, and we're not supposed to. We're just supposed to do they're in cahoots with us. They needed us to push.
Well, I was going to say about that, like Ghost in the Machine. Like, when do you like, how many accounts do you, like, people get called, like, a lot of the accounts are like, oh, that's CIA. I'm like, but maybe that's like the military, like, pushing your buttons, like, and they're purposely pushing your buttons, like, and then some guys ignore you or whatever, like, they get lots, like, I don't know, like, I don't know, like, I feel like some of these accounts, more of these accounts might be military than we realize. I don't know
that. And they make bots. All this stuff has been done, man. It was done to create wars in other countries, you know, and you look at Pegasus and all these companies that, like, they ran these operations to disrupt and overthrow, leaders in other countries to get in there and get what they wanted. So, like, this was used maliciously as well, but this, as the story goes, it was taken over by the good guys, and now they're using that in a good way. So
do you think Flynn was using it when it was good or bad then? I think he's very controversial character.
You're right. He certainly is. He certainly is. Why were you in Haiti? What were you doing down there? But a lot, again, even as a high star general, a lot of these guys didn't really know why they were doing it. They were just told what to do, and they went and did it, right? And maybe they flipped, and they're like, they told everything they know, and we'll work for you. We never had any of these. There's so many things it could possibly be.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah,
exactly, and we cannot know.
Nope, never.
And that's the whole thing. It was like, it was just enough to show us, the Q proofs, all that, like, this is what's going on. And there's been hundreds of them. Okay. It's like, if anybody would just take the time to go back and look at it, even the people that are out there like Donnie Darkened and stuff like that, these guys know there's proofs. Okay. But do they take it to a next level?
But that's where I'm saying, like, even him, like, I don't know him, but, like, what if that's military to get you worked up, to get you going, right? Like that, I'm not saying it is, but, like, that's the idea. Like, I'm trying to understand if that's what they're doing.
These are people that are just really good at finding information and research and all that, and they kind of get beyond the scope of it, and they start creating this narrative that, it makes sense and it's falling into place, and look at these signs and symbols, and look what he said here, and look what he said there, and I'm like, and I tell Ted all the time, I'm like, dude, he is chest deep in the psyop. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is chest in, and, like, I have nothing against the dude, whatsoever, but because to each their own. However, I've almost gone to that point before and stopped myself and said, but it doesn't make sense. Why are we allowed to know? Why are we allowed to go through all this and see the things we've been seen and shown? You know what I mean? And why is it all bringing us closer to God? You know what I mean? Like, if it's so evil, you know, and if Trump is, as I told, you know, these guys all the time, I'm like, dude, if Trump is the Antichrist, I'm thoroughly unimpressed.
Yeah.
Thoroughly.
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah, exactly. Unless it's a bigger trap, but I don't think he's the Antichrist. Like,
he's a stooge. Yeah, he's just there. He was the guy that they chose to do this.
He's got that BDE. They needed someone with that. That's what he needed.
What do you, like? Have you listened to the Kim Clement prophecies? Are you familiar with them?
I didn't. I got. It's funny because I got poo-pooed on those, like, in some of the chats that I was in, you know, deep in a Telegram and stuff like that, with what I firmly believe are military, just because of the things I was shown and, like, personally, and that's a whole other story.
I mean, the odds of some of them not being military are slim to none. Some
like
of them.
A prophet,
are.
You mean? Like some of these guys?
The guys, no, that are in there, they're saying, like, what's going on. Like, that's how I knew about yeah, like, who's dead, who's not, who's wearing a mask. Like, I was told all this at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, knowing that it was a funeral service and not an inauguration, all the glitching and the, you know what I mean, the two different timelines.
And then you saw it happening.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I literally was in a chat room when one of the guys like, hey, is Twitter up right now? And, you know, and the guys are like, yeah. Like, how about now? And it shut down right then. And I was like, oh, damn. And, like, it just floored me, dude, you know? And I know I'm not the only one. You know, there's a lot of things that happened to me personally, like when they were doing the with certifying the votes, you know, on the 20th, and at the end of it, like, I'm watching OAN. Okay, I was watching OAN at the time. I was all, you know, super political guy, but I was like F Fox, F all, you know what I mean, and going on. And I was like, oh, only OAN because it's Anon. Up. And I'm watching this thing, and it ends, and the camera stayed on, and they're all just staying around talking. I watched him hand him the token in real time, right? And then this
depends, yeah.
Right. Yes, exactly. Gave him the coin, the challenge coin, and this noise came on, and my wife we were in bed watching this, and this like came on, and across underneath the screen it said QAnon.
Really?
Like, scrolling, yes, yes. And I'm like, you saw that, right? She's like, like, and she was always like, you're crazy. Every time I try to tell her all this, I'm like, you saw that, right? You saw that. She's like, I did.
I don't think you've ever even told me that.
I never told you that story?
I don't know. No, I've never heard you say that.
And I actually got confirmation in one of the chat rooms I was in later on.
That they did it.
Yeah, they did it. I'm like, did anybody else see that? Did anybody else?
Was anyone else watching OAN? What the fuck?
The movie awards in 2021. The movie awards, right? In that year, they literally, it was real creepy. I don't know if you remember it, but like, Brad Pitt didn't even look like Brad Pitt. He had long hair, and he was like this decrepit zombie looking dude. And like it was like, you know, during COVID and all that. So they all had like separate tables, and there was a lot of like stuff that wasn't even live, but they were trying to portray it live. Well, one of the ladies goes up there and she's talking. She's like, yes, and we just really want to let's just get through this movie, guys, and then everything's gonna be okay.
Wow.
What about the idea, like you talked about Hollywood? Like, I've been seeing more numbers like 17 in movies. Like, is that like communication that things are getting cleaned up behind the scenes?
Yes.
Like, whatever happens. Like, what if there's not a full disclosure? Does that work? Like, where you don't have a full disclosure,
see it immediately and prove. I mean, or something.
No, like, can you unbrainwash people without telling them what you did? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Everybody's like, there's going to be this Scooby-Doo ending, right? Like,
yeah, like something's got to happen. Like, whoa, like, but is there? I don't know.
I don't know, man. I mean, to me, like, people would just.
There has to be arrests. There has to be something public.
Right.
At least one big arrest. Something that says, look, someone that you trusted was totally full of shit and they sold you the fuck out. There has to be something.
I think so too.
And what does the ending? The ending is not for everyone. What does that mean, right?
Oh, that,
you know, like
everybody. They're not awake enough yet for it, or
right? Okay, that is one. Like, or is it like, hey, this isn't going to be the ending you think it's going to be? Right?
It's going to be a big nothing burger, but things are going to get better.
Slowly, exactly, transition into this new world, right?
Yeah.
So
and then all the doom and gloom truthers will be like, no, it's a trap.
Dude,
right.
I gauge everything by my daily life. And I don't mean like I only give a shit about myself. I just mean like around me are things good, and I know I'm way happier than I was a few years ago. I'm getting my voice out more than I was a few years ago, and none of that would have happened without this. So,
true.
Something's changing. Something.
Yes, sir.
I do hope there's a moment, like I don't expect a Scooby-Doo moment, but I do want the moment to go, I told you.
Vindication,
right? See?
I mean, we'll see how these trials go. Obviously, it's, it's all normie based, political based with the votes and all that stuff, right? We're way past that, beyond that. However, when you step back sometimes and look at it, it's like, holy crap, this is going to be finally the opportunity for the military to come in and say, yeah, look, here's the data we had. This is all we've been trying to tell you, but the courts are so corrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that'll be interesting.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And the FBI that you know and love and trust is corrupt, and the CIA is corrupt, and all these the Supreme Court is corrupt.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like when that hits, that might be a very good time for them to go ahead and like, shut the lights off. You know what I mean? Like we're under attack.
And then there's going to be some sort of switch back to the Republic then if we think we've seen what we're seeing.
Right.
Too, right? Like there has to be a major shift.
I think it's going to be
on the landscape.
It's going to be kind of if it is as epic as I envisioned it to be, right? I always think of like the end of the movie with the aliens, Independence Day, right? When everybody's standing outside and they're like, okay, here we are, not literally standing outside, you know what I mean? But here we are in this new moment, everybody's paying attention. What's going on? Where are we going from here? Right. So that's all I can ever really imagine, because we're just not there. We're just not there. And look at how many people we're still dealing with that are just fully asleep, dude, and fighting you to the bone, being a zombie. And, you can't sit there and harp on it and try to save everybody. And that's not even really our whole thing, is it? We're not out to save the world. We're just showing you what we've been through and showing you what's been shown to us. Right. Yeah, so 100%. I don't know. We'll see, man. I mean, it's pretty wild, but it's definitely cool to talk to somebody that at least doesn't, think that you've been brainwashed. Yeah. When I tell everybody like, dude, yeah, my brain has been washed.
Yeah, we were brainwashed. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about. Like,
I know.
It's wild. Like, it's weird. Like the evil behind it. And then that comes into play. Okay, like it's a different topic, but maybe this is like Tartaria.
Oh yeah.
Like if we've been lied to about so much, are we even on the right time? Like, are we at the right year? Like if you could be brainwashed about all this stuff.
That would be easy to fake, I think.
Like, yeah, like it seems like it could be easier to fake, because a lot of people that believe in Tartaria believe that there was already this like 1,000-year reign with Christ, and now we're after that when the devil gets loose for a period of time, and it talks about him deceiving the whole world, and you got to give it a little bit of credence, or like, okay, like look at, we are all deceived.
Oh, for sure.
We're all like been brainwashed to levels of like. So does that mean like, are we like completely wrong where we're at in our thinking? If you're thinking in a prophetic timeline view, like it's, I don't know, man. Like I gotta do more Tartaria research. But
it does tie into biblical cosmology and all that, right? And the lost
I don't know yet. I haven't done a deep dive on it, but it's an interesting idea. It's a very interesting
idea.
There
are guys out there that are really putting in the work, and they're getting these groups together and they're talking about it online. And it's there, but it's so wild, with everything else going on right now. Like it's so wild. And I'm not saying I think it's wild. I think it's incredible.
Yeah.
And I've heard compelling evidence with this.
But that's where I'm like, there's so many people. Like it's like, okay, you talk about the operation of waking people up. A portion of what we're seeing in the news is waking up Christians because they're getting scared of the rapture. It's triggering them. And there's a lot of people talking about it. again. And they were talking about it like it always happens, it seems, but it just seems like it's getting a lot bigger, especially with the jab, the mark of the beast. Like more people are talking about it, way more people. And I'm kind of like, I'm glad you're talking about it, right. But I don't think that's what's about to happen. Like, you know what I mean? Like so then that's where I'm like, is Tartaria onto something? Like,
again, and I believe that it is all part of it, just like Flat Earth, just like Mandela. All these things were disclosed through back channels slowly and to make their way through, you know, so that it's a lot easier to cope with some of the crap that's really going to come out, right? Like, does that make sense? Like,
like,
way they lied that much. Well,
yeah, if you start seeing more lies and more, then why wouldn't they lie about this too? Like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal?
So it's like, I don't know,
getting you prepared for
there's definitely levels of awake.
I would say so.
Awake. I mean, you know, if I saw there was a video once, and I can't remember who did it, but he did like a 10-step of awake. You know what I mean, going all the way up to one being, you know, the military's in control and this and that everything's a psyop within a psyop within a psyop. You know, and you're just kind of kicking back and figuring out ways to make it go quicker. Right.
Yeah. Like it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're awake and you're like the waiting is tough. Like, it's mentally exhausting sometimes.
But
like, even my own family, like, the people around you, they're like, stop talking about it. It's not going to happen. It's like, oh, but how do you not see it sometimes? Like, how do you not, like
reverse psychology?
Yeah.
You know, what's going to make you eventually say, that's it, I'm going to make something happen.
Yeah.
Right. Like the people that were, you know, putting together these mask I went to a mask burning, right? And I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And this is like, right? And I'm sitting there at the beach, and there's I didn't realize it was freaking spring break, dude. So all the college kids are there, right? Like, look at these dummies. Look at burning masks are walking up like, you freaking Trump tards. You know, this and that. And it's just like, holy crap, what did we just get ourselves into? And then this big giant truck drives by, and it's freshly wrapped. Okay. It has this badass wrap that says The Great Awakening. And this is in 2021, like, again, like right around that March time, you know, and it was like, whoa. And my buddy is like, you're going to see some tells, he called them. And he's a vet. You know, we kind of had a falling out a little bit because he had some PTSD that he was dealing with, you know, at that time when like they were bombing in, you know, Israel and all that. And he thought it was going to be World War III, and he's like losing it. And he lost. I was like, dude, calm down. You're saying everybody's dead and this and that, but look what's going on. I'm like, dude, just relax, just chill. You know, we're good. But I couldn't really calm him down. So he went a different way. However, he did tell me, he's like, you know, through the channels that I've talked to, there's going to be some tells there that it's involved with Q, and it sure enough was. I mean, I couldn't get a greater tell than this giant truck.
Yeah,
and like these military people in it and stuff. It was wild, dude. Like, I've seen some pretty wild things. That's why it's like, I know, you know what I mean? Like, I know personally a lot more things going on that I've personally experienced, and a lot of people do. So I just have patience with them. Like, you know what? Everybody, like you said, you know, everybody's going to have their path in this. Everybody has a place. Even Donnie Darko, even these people that are black-pilled, they all have their place in this giant movement, you know? But anyway, I digress. I'm talking too much.
That's okay. Yeah, I can't go down. I can't be the black pillar just because of my experiences. So I can't do it. And when I see the black pillars, I'm like, no, you're wrong. Like, like I know you're wrong. Like, God spoke to me. Like, that's the problem. Like, it's like, no, you're wrong. Like, I know it's wrong. Like,
and
like,
God
you don't have to.
To us in different ways, you know.
Yes, exactly.
The fact that He spoke to you directly like that is incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, and I think I told it. I think I told on the Raven like the first time it happened. So go watch his podcast if you want to hear the first one.
I already did.
Yeah. So where he visited me, it's a story about thunder. So go listen to his podcast.
Oh, I definitely
that one. And that's where I was like, okay, well, the first time the voice talked to me, it didn't lie. So, but again, it's just more of a waiting game. Yeah, exactly, right. That's why, like, I've played with that idea. Trust me.
Yeah, you have to.
Like, what was that?
Yeah.
Like, I have no, like, and I've come to the conclusion that because it knew what I was thinking. Like, I don't know.
I know,
like,
man.
Like, who knows what you're thinking?
Yeah, but have you done anything harmful by what you've been told?
Like, did I go on a killing spree?
Yeah, exactly.
No.
So nothing bad has come of it, no matter what. So
right.
No,
so you
I
didn't
didn't.
do anybody dirty, right? You didn't have this inside information and do some trades or something like that. You know?
No. I just got super hopeful, like something like.
Right.
I'm still, still am. Yeah. No, it's a good thing. So the fruit of it is a good thing, right? So you test it, but when you have something like that happen to you, you're gonna question yourself.
Oh yeah,
and that's just normal. Like. Even people that have UFO experiences, they're going to question it.
What a crappy mantra, God wins.
Yeah, well, that's right. What you said. Like, sometimes it's like we're killing time, but it's like, okay, like we already won.
Right.
Like, it's tough, but we already won. It's
like
just
the whole thing.
The rejection is tough, but it's
chapter is already written, right? Like,
yeah.
So once you know that, how can you really get sucked into all that? You know, like. And I feel that that's God working in your life. Like, hey, I got this, man. You know?
And like, it's crazy. Like, I'm not even saying this is true, but I saw a flat earther post it. Maybe you guys can comment. Like, even some of the rockets were just helium balloons with metal around them. And it's like, I was watching that the other day and I was like, when does it stop? Like, when does the
I'll send you something, a video that breaks down the shuttle going up, and it bounces,
and then I was thinking,
dude.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, you think you're red pilled, you think you're awake, and then someone posts something, and you're like, fuck me, man. Like, what is going on? And then you think about the Challenger. I'm like, is that why they didn't die? And there's photos of them now because it was a big helium balloon and there was no one on it in the first place. Like, this is what's the problem with conspiracy theories, man. It never ends.
And people are like, I saw them walk out. Yeah, well, I saw the BBC news thing where they went down and were showing you the escape tunnel that they can use in case something catches on fire.
I've seen that before. I've never seen the helium thing before. And I just shook my head. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I was just wild? Like, what?
Before now, we would never put those things together. Right?
Yeah.
It would just be two isolated. Oh, yeah, there was a BBC episode of this, and then, you know, the Challenger blew up. You would never able to put those two together logically.
Can you imagine if this whole reality is such a silly magician's trick? It's like I was talking to my wife about it too. I'm like this is like Superman wearing glasses. Like how are we so fooled?
So we go back to what you very first thing you said. Right? What God told you. He said, I created this. I'm going to fix it.
Yeah. And I never made sense. I'm like, what do you mean you created this problem? Like, it just never made sense.
What if it was a test?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
but then that makes, then this is my own theory I've been thinking about. Because the number 17 is also linked to the prophet Elijah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is going to be really weird. And I'm probably wrong. But this is just where, like, when you start to imagine and you start to daydream and you start to try to connect dots.
Yeah.
And they're supernatural and it's God. And I'm saying angels are coming. And I'm saying supernatural things are coming. What if Q is somehow linked to God or Elijah? And this plan is like way bigger than we can imagine. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, way better than we could imagine.
You know, nothing is outside.
And people tell me I'm in a box when I say that stuff. I'm like, do you think I'm in a box when I say that? I'm like, no, man. Like I'm the craziest person you're talking to right now. There's no way I'm in a box.
They're glued to the box waiting for the next date of when to put your mask on and everything else, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too grand, but I mean, like, because what I'm told, I'm like, I'm expecting something supernatural.
Is it that far off that God could speak to us through people? Especially
no, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I'm doing it right now. I'm saying I have a message. And like, it's not impossible at all. But then, like, people like Donnie Darkin, this is what makes me mad. Okay, this is what makes me mad. Have you ever tried to interpret a dream? Have you ever tried to give a prophetic word? At some point, you have to try. And you might, I'm sorry, you're human, people mess up, but people get so biblical and so religious, like it's the Old Testament. You get one little thing wrong, like they want you stoned, they want you dead. And, you know, there were big name prophets that said Donald Trump was going to win the election, and he didn't. and then they backed out and they sort of apologized, and I was kind of like, no, you guys are wrong right now, because it was so obvious he did win the election. It just messed everything up, and I'm like, do you trust these guys now? Just everything got messed up. Everything got messed up. Like, people I trusted, I'm like, I don't know if I can trust them anymore.
Dude, what you just
it's crazy.
What you just said is everything. Like, but he lost. No, he didn't.
No,
he didn't lose.
And I'm like, but why did these guys back down? Why did they back down on their prophecy? And I'm like, you guys, like, it felt like people were bowing to giants, and fake news is a giant, like a modern day giant. And I'm like, no, man, like, this is so obvious. Like, it's so bad right now.
It's
like,
the voice of evil.
Yeah,
it really is, dude. Is it like, dude, if it bleeds, it leads? Come on, man.
But then at some point you got to say, like, okay, like, if they have power and control, okay, maybe some bad guys. I'm just hypotheticals right now. So bad guys still control the news. At some point, when does the military have to say, like, we have to get control of the news somehow? Like, we can't allow.
I think they already have.
Okay, so do I. But then, like, that's where it's like.
Okay, well, yeah, I get it.
Like,
I know.
Like,
why are they doing this?
Why is it like we've talked about it? Like, you guys, like, maybe there's just too many people brainwashed. But
yeah, no,
we're already there. Like, when is it going to get to more though? Like, you know, like, when is there going to be more disclosure? Because it's just so slow. And if you're in control, I guess they have a plan. I don't know.
It has to.
But this is what I mess with me right now, right? Like, I'm like, why? Like,
maybe that was what trust the plan meant. Like, stop,
freaking out all the time.
Right. It's spending so much time trying to decide.
But like you said, we're analyzers. We think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't tell me to stop doing that.
Stop doing that. Right. Shut up and get this information out there now. And the more we get it out, the more it starts flooding.
But then that's what I'm saying. If maybe we get to a point as people pushing it on the normal or the crazies, if we get to a point where we've pushed it far enough, then maybe that's where they can step in and take over and say, look, these people have been talking about it. These people have been talking about it. This guy's been talking about it. All these crazy people all over the world have been talking about it. It's just not just me. It's not just you guys. It's so many of us. And then, I don't know. That's how I'm saying. Maybe that's how part of it takes down. Like I said at the beginning, this is somehow
going
to work to take down fake news.
They're like, oh, trust the plan. Sit there and do nothing. Only the people that know about Q are the ones that are doing that, so to speak. Right? They say doing nothing, but we're not doing nothing. We're advancing this. We're getting people pissed off to the point where they start going out, walking out of their jobs, walking out there and saying enough is enough. They walk on DC. They do this thing. These peaceful protests that they always hear about pushing, go out and peacefully protest. You get enough people doing that, right? It will force the military to come in. They need a reason lawfully, and it has to be done by law.
I see. You know
what I'm saying?
And it's kind of like at a point, like, we've already won.
Right. So not everybody knows that.
We can keep dripping and dripping until it gets to that point.
Right. But we're gonna rely on the people that don't know what we know.
Yeah.
So that's why the military, I believe, is already taking over the news stations. Not all of them, but most of it. And they're pushing these things out. They're pushing these wild, crazy things. The world's burning. Everything's happening because of Joe Biden. you know what I mean? It's just like, we're back here like, yeah, right, whatever. That's not even Joe Biden. So they're not worried about us. They're worried about all the people that are crazies. They're going to like, all right, that's it. We had enough. We want to go out, riot, burn things down, and then force the military to come in and shut it down and say, hey, this guy wasn't even elected. He was installed. And then
they'll say that.
Right. And then you start having these trials. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I think. I try to rationally think about why would they do this?
Do it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I kind of think about it too. Like, I'm like, why are we at where we're at? It feels like a stalemate or a really weird period.
Yeah.
For a long time. Like, when's something gonna give?
Do you think there's gonna be election 2024?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
But I mean, that's the other problem. It's just I feel like when a conspiracy theory gets so mainstream so fast now, I'm like, I kind of put the brakes on it. I'm like, because everyone's talking about no 2024, but it kind of makes sense. Like, there's no point of having another election for the Corporation of America if there's no more Corporation of America.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, that's why I'm saying, like, how long can you have a pause? Eventually, life has to go move on.
Well, there still has to be a scare event. So
yes,
opinion,
yes, exactly, exactly. And eventually, life
right.
life has to move on. The world has to move forward at some point.
Right.
You can't just keep a pause forever. Just for some people, like at some point, something has to happen.
You remember in the beginning when they were always talking about Trump being inaugurated in March and not in November? Well, technically, that following March would be 2025 and not 2024. Okay, so if they put a stop to the election because of the stuff that came out about it and everything's corrupt and we can't use these machines and all this stuff comes out, right, when he's in court and the military showing all this, so like, well, we got to stop it right now. We got to put a pause on it, and continuity government officially comes out and is known, you know what I mean? And then they carry this all the way into that following March.
And I'm not American. I'm not an expert on the Republic. Is
oh,
it the same?
Okay.
You can only be an American for 8 years of the Republican, or is that only 8 years of the corporation, or is it the same?
Good question.
Maybe that's why he says 20 more years. I'll just stay in charge of the Republic for 20 years. It's just to piss people off. Like, I don't know.
That's a good question.
I don't know. I'm not an expert.
But I was just trying to say, you know what I mean? Like, what that would cause a no voting in 2024, technically. Because you know what I mean?
Because everything's got to be redone, or
right, and then
new systems.
You know, like it used to be done.
March
so they had these just creative ways of setting everything back to the way it used to be when America was great, right? Way back then. So I don't know. I think about that all the time. Like, what, you know, the most logical, you know, reasons for what they do, and that's really what it comes down to.
I think we're getting close, though.
Yeah,
I do.
think so,
and I think to me, I'm seeing new numbers. And I think a flip is coming. Something new is coming. Like it's like I said, I think something.
Yeah, I think the
26th I feel like the story of the page is the next chapter's coming.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Joe's on his way out, and Kamala will have her short-lived time there, and then
Big Mike will enter the stage.
Oh, yay.
I thought that was going to happen back in like 2020. Like I thought the switch was gonna happen to Biden. Was so bad back then. I was like, they're going to switch.
Yeah, but they need the impact of it being close to the time, because if they come out too early, there's going to be too much time for the truth to come out. If you wait,
maybe that'll be the precipice.
Yeah,
there you go.
They'll just show his dong. Everyone will wake. Like,
there it is.
That would wake everyone up. Like, what the hell's going on?
All right. My question would be, because a lot of them are gonna support him because of that. Oh, he's so well. They'll say she is so brave. Blah blah blah. But why did you lie this whole time? If it's such a great, proud thing, why did you keep it from everybody this whole time?
Well, because we're satanic as part of our cult.
Well, I know that, and you know that.
And then they'll figure out.
Here it is.
Even Barbarian Bush. It's like when you look back at those pictures of that, it's like they've been doing this a while, man. Like,
yeah.
But we didn't see it then.
No, that's why I'm saying it's like Superman with the glasses. It's so silly. It's so silly.
That's such a good analogy.
That in itself is supernatural. It's evil.
Yeah, it's a witchcraft. It's a veil.
Yeah,
it's a veil. And that's another thing. Okay, like 17. Okay, it's linked to Elijah. And Elijah, what did he do? He took down the witches.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing right now. The witchcraft with NASA, the witchcraft with TV, Hollywood, you know, like the stick. This is all witchcraft. And for some reason, we're part of a supernatural war taking down witchcraft, whether it ever gets revealed that way or not. That's exactly what's happening. And that's why I say and that's why I'm saying, like, when I podcast stuff, it's been for 3 years. It's almost to the T. Like every time I podcast, something happens. I'm like, man, supernatural stuff and spiritual warfare, it's real. Like
you can hear the words. It's going to be biblical and run with that, right? And be like, I gotta look at the Bible and everything's gonna line up. No. The Bible is used in context as part of this script to play out, and it just like you did, you were able to make that connection, right? That's telling you something right there, and you're watching it. You're watching it happen.
And it's good that I'm so glad other people started podcasts and talking about this stuff, because man, like it needed to happen. Like people need to connect. Like you said, you even said, like, it's good for people to talk about it and not just be alone about it and be like, am I seeing this? Am I experiencing this? But that's part, I think, like you said, that's part of the plan. You needed to experience it. You needed to feel it. You won't forget it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not just the military. It's God as well. It's God as well. And
no one can tell me that what I saw didn't happen or what I experienced
exactly
didn't happen,
exactly.
Damn, dude, I want to thank you for coming on.
No, that was fun. I like talking to you guys, so anytime.
Who's coming on the podcast next?
Me?
Yeah.
I got a few people lined up. It just seems to be, I got a couple more flat earthers lined up. I have an old friend who used to talk about flat earth all the time. So I have to give him credence to probably or give him his, his recognition for planting the seeds back in the day, because, I would never get triggered. I'd be like, I just don't believe it. But I never did the research either. I was too busy. But, yeah, so I want to talk about biblical astrology, because I've always hated your horoscopes and everyone born this day is now going to have the same experience that day. And then because you're born in this time period, and then there's these other astrologists, and they use the Bible a lot, and they try to say you were born on this day in this location, and it lines up with these stars. But I'm kind of like, okay, there's something off about some of this, because I put it this way. I feel like stars are for everyone.
Yeah.
And when you make it about yourself, you lose the message. And that's just my perspective. So some of this astrology stuff, I think, being pushed right now, I worry is more new agey, more magician's tricks. So I'm interested to talk to more flat earthers maybe about their views of biblical astrology, because it's for signs, it's for seasons. And I'm not an expert on everything. I'm just going on a journey. So we'll see. And I want to get some Tartaria stuff on there too. So I don't know. My guests seem to like seeing 369 sometimes. Who comes on my show is just happens.
Yeah.
So exactly. We'll just see what happens. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah, right. Especially now, man. It's just like every day is something new.
Yeah. It's getting funner though, I think, with the Trump stuff coming back.
It is.
Yeah, it's gonna get better.
It's just what a journey, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Every day.
All right, Ted, you have anything else you want to ask?
I mean, I want you to tell everybody where they can follow you and find you and all that. So.
Yeah, Unbridled Minds is just audio only. Actually, I do have some Rumble videos. I don't post everything, but the full show is always audio only.
Yeah.
And you can find that on basically any podcast app, except for Spotify. And then if you have Apple or Google or any of the other ones, they should be there. Okay. I'll put links in my shows sometimes for Twitter and all that stuff, or just on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just search Unbridled Minds, and then it should come up. So
awesome. Yeah, and we'll put the links on the description as well.
Yeah, and you're gonna put this. We're gonna send you the audio, right? You're gonna put this out as.
I'm gonna share so I'll let my listeners know. Obviously, you guys, I've shared your guys' links on the other show. They listened to it. That was a well listened to show. Awesome. And so I'll share their links with you guys as well. And then obviously I want to keep my part of my story. I'm gonna finish that part of the story off for my podcast. Yes, obviously the three things God has spoken to me. So I'm excited to get that to my listeners. And then that's where I'm kind of saying, I'm seeing some new numbers, and I'm seeing 7 and 8. So 7 is completion and 8 is new beginnings. So, and we're in a very interesting time of the Feast of Trumpets and Yom Kippur in September. You don't have to be Jewish. You don't have to live on the Jewish timeline. God can work at any time in your life, but it's just an interesting spiritual time on earth. For people. So that's why I think it's interesting. I'm seeing these numbers right now, 7 and 8, as you're kind of entering the Hebrew New Year.
Yeah, you got to pay attention to everything you start seeing. Everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's just a journey. Like I said, my podcast is just a journey, and you can listen to it from the beginning over 3 years now, and
awesome,
and see what happens and how I've changed and what pissed me off. It's just it is what it is. Yeah, it's fun. It's been fun.
John, thank you so much, man.
No, thank you guys.
I genuinely appreciate you sharing your third time speaking with God or hearing from God on our show. Cool. It means a lot to us, honestly.
It does.
Good.
He's not kidding.
Awesome. So this is where we normally say death faded out. And so we will definitely be talking to you plenty on Twitter and everywhere, and I'm sure we'll be on each other's shows again one day. It'll come up.
I'm sure it's true. Yep, it'll happen.
We appreciate you coming, man.
See you guys.
All right, man. Take it easy. Bye-bye.